Welcome to the deep dive. We take a whole stack of sources, pull out the most important bits, the real nuggets, and basically give you a shortcut to being well-informed.
Yeah, getting you right up to speed.
Exactly. And today, we're doing something a bit different. We're diving into a novel, Tim Binding's Island Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission, if you like, is to unpack the reality of life on Guernsey during the German occupation in World War II. It's surprisingly complex, often morally, well, ambiguous.
Definitely ambiguous. It's all seen through the eyes of both the islanders and the occupiers themselves.
Right. We want to explore how an island, this beautiful place, could hide so much turmoil and, how people change under that kind of external pressure.
What does it actually feel like to be occupied, physically, psychologically? It's a huge question.
It really is. And the novel, it just gives you such an intimate look at that.
Straight away, what's really striking is how Binding sets up this contrast, Guernsey's beauty on one hand, and then this heavy, almost suffocating feeling of occupation on the other.
Yeah, he doesn't waste any time setting that up. We meet Major Lentsch. He's a German officer, but he has this artist's eye, which is interesting.
Unexpected, yeah.
He sees the island's sparkling garland of bays Corbière, La Jeunesse, Saints Bay, and the Villa Pascal. He sees it in blocks of color. It sounds quite lovely.
Almost picturesque.
But then, almost immediately, you get his internal dismay. He feels like something precious is just broken, like only Guernsey existed. But it's been fundamentally changed by them being there.
It's not just description, is it? It sets up that core paradox right away. Can occupation break a place's spirit, or does the beauty fight back somehow?
It's a great way to frame it. And using an occupier, Lentsch, to voice that sense of loss. That's quite a choice.
It is. And that feeling of change, it isn't just Lynch noticing it from the outside. The book talks about the island's atmosphere itself shifting.
Right. It mentions Guernsey having this inherent chilly in its heart that only an island feels, like a sort of restlessness.
Exactly. And the occupation just ramps that feeling up intensely. Inspector Ned Luscombe's view gives us a look at the sort of constrained reality on the ground.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, his police station, it's expanded, but it's described as primitive, a place where privacy was at a premium, and confessing anything was, frankly, unwise.
So right away you get this picture of a very tight, controlled environment where normal rules just don't apply anymore.
Precisely. Justice, interaction, it's all warped.
And that image from the police station, it really grounds Lynch's more abstract dismay, doesn't it?
It does. It's such a contrast to how Lynch initially feels kind of detached. He remembers the Meyer raids, the bombing back in Germany,
Yeah.
and he felt strangely unaffected by them compared to what's happening right there on Guernsey.
So he's got this psychological distance at first. Interesting. But you get the sense that won't last.
No, definitely not. So the island's feeling warped, the atmosphere is tense. What about, social life? How did people interact?
Well, the novel gives us a pretty interesting look into the German social scene, specifically the casino.
Ah, the casino, right.
It apparently became the most favored club for officers and some civilians, too. A place where you might think some normal socializing could happen.
You might think, but probably not that simple.
Not at all. There were these unspoken rules. For instance, it was not done to be seen coming down the club stairs with a local girl following in your tread.
Ah, maintaining appearances.
Exactly. It points to this very delicate equilibrium. They had to show respect for local women, on the surface at least. It's all about keeping up a facade, even when the power balance is completely skewed. It forced this whole new kind of social dance,
Mm-hmm. And that control, that attempt to manage perceptions, it went way beyond just social etiquette, didn't it? It seeped into culture itself.
Yeah, absolutely. You have Sandifer Bode, the censor. His job was basically cultural gatekeeping.
Right, he was purging things.
Totally. Getting rid of low comedies, musicals, and risque nightclub turns. And replacing them with, well, approved entertainment, military bands, lecture slides, and folk festivals.
So it's not just stopping things, it's actively trying to reshape the island's culture, its sense of fun, to fit their ideology.
Yeah, cultural domination, basically. But then Bode's own pursuits get really strange.
Oh, this is the naturism thing, right? It's quite unsettling.
It really is. He's doing research, supposedly, into the German form, measuring people.
Measuring nurses from the League of Girls, and even foreigners in Major Ernst's garden, of all places.
And the detail about using warmed gloves to apply the tape measure, it just highlights the sheer weirdness and the, frankly, twisted ideas behind it all.
It does, and his belief that non-Germans cannot be of the same quality. It's a really chilling look at the pseudoscientific racism driving things.
That detail really sticks with you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How absurd and dangerous those ideas are.
But then the novel flips the coin. It also looks at the surprising allure of the conquerors for some.
Right. Molly, one of the local women, she talks about this. She describes the German soldiers as so much bigger than what we're used to here.
Looking like gods, she says, even though she acknowledges their ordinary cruelties.
It's complicated, isn't it? It gives you this very nuanced, maybe uncomfortable look at power, attraction, and just the psychological effects of occupation. People's reactions aren't straightforward.
No, rarely black and white, especially under that kind of pressure.
And maybe the most jarring example of an unexpected reaction comes from Mrs. Hallivan. She owns the Villa Pascal.
Oh, yes. Her confession is something else.
She tells Lentsch, straight up, I am so glad about the war, calls it the best thing that has happened to me on this island.
It's astonishing. What was her reasoning?
Well, she absolutely despised the local social scene, these dreadful little drink stews, she calls them, with cheap punch, meat-based sandwiches, and pineapple chunks stuck on cocktail sticks.
Ha! Specific complaints.
Very specific. And she dismisses her husband as a seducer in a stuffed shirt. So for her, the occupation, this massive upheaval, was actually a kind of personal liberation.
Wow. So the war freed her from her own internal prison, in a way.
Exactly. And she even puts on this anti-German Peter Pan pantomime. The pirates are described as having an uncharacteristically military bent. It's this weirdly subversive act of defiance within her own newfound freedom.
That's fascinating. It shows how extreme situations can paradoxically free some people from their old lives, their old miseries.
It really makes you question what normalcy even means, doesn't it? Sometimes that's its own kind of suffering.
Yeah, it definitely complicates the picture of how people cope. Makes you wonder who the unexpected winners are in any big societal shift.
Right. So we see these internal conflicts, these strange reactions. But then the novel shifts focus to, well, a real crime. A death that exposes the island's dark underbelly.
The black market's grip, yeah.
Yeah.
And it centers around Isabel Van Deelen.
Tell us about her. She seems quite contradictory.
Very. Lentsch sees her as full of confident and irrepressible health, like a circus trainer surrounded by her favorite lions, strong, vibrant.
Okay.
But her aunt, Mrs. Hallivan, just dismisses her, calls her the silliest girl in the island.
Huh. Quite a contrast.
And then there's another layer. Her secret summer romance with Ned, the inspector, illicit swimming, furtive little love notes. It adds this vulnerability.
So she's seen in all these different ways, almost like occupation fractures identity itself, how people perceive each other.
That's a good way to put it. So when her body is found...
Where is she found?
In a bunker shaft.
Yeah.
Grim. And Ned's immediate thought is drunken soldiers. He imagines this brutal scenario, raped and beaten to death.
A plausible assumption in wartime.
Very. But the investigation quickly points to something else, something more insidious woven into the fabric of the occupation itself.
Which is the black market.
Exactly. It wasn't just happening on the fringes. It was everywhere. Pervasive. We hear George Poidman complaining about prostitutes, French mamselles, he calls them, getting large rations.
Okay.
And seeing orderly queues of men waiting outside brothels. It shows how embedded these illicit activities were.
It paints a pretty grim picture of daily life.
And it gets darker. The sight of troop carriers, that's the awful term they use for pregnant local women carrying German babies, holding their swollen stomachs out as proudly if they'd had the Iron Cross pinned upon them.
God, that's chilling. It just shows the deep, unsettling consequences. Even new life is caught up in desperation and transaction.
Mm-hmm. And the scale of the money involved in the black market was just huge. You mentioned the custard operation earlier.
Yeah, Bird's powdered custard, originally what, 1 and 2pence a tin?
Yeah, negligible. Sold on the black market for £4 a tin.
£4? That's staggering.
It is. And the novel names Lieutenant Shade, a German officer, Elspeth Poitevin, who apparently saved over £3,000 from it.
£3,000. That's a fortune then.
An absolute fortune. And George Poitevin, too. It shows how deep it went, how profitable it was. It created this whole shadow economy that just warped everything.
Right. So Isabel's murder. It wasn't random violence.
No. The reveal comes from Tommy's confession to Ned. He killed Isabel because she found out about the custard smuggling.
Ah, she's going to expose them.
Exactly, which would have meant arrest, ruin, just like those 18 men from the police force who had already been done for larceny.
So it was about protecting the operation, the illicit gains.
Precisely. And the detail that he used, the yellow peril, the old police car to commit the crime, it just hammers home the systemic corruption.
Wow, it's a stark reminder that the worst violence isn't always the most obvious enemy action, is it? It can come from within, driven by greed and desperation.
Absolutely. And this environment, this pressure cooker, it pushes people to really extreme measures, doesn't it? Not just crime, but acts of defiance or survival.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those. Albert, the caretaker.
Albert. He's heartbroken about his daughter Kitty being evacuated.
And that grief fuels something quite drastic.
Totally radical. He decides he's going to kill Hitler. He makes a bomb.
A bomb!
From everyday stuff. A bit of old pipe, a cup of sugar, some weed killer. His reasoning is simple, almost primal. He must not come to Guernsey. He's trying to protect the island's soul in his own way.
And the irony.
The massive irony is Mrs. Hallivan gives him the sugar and weed killer, completely clueless about what he's planning.
It's such a raw, desperate kind of resistance.
Yeah.
Symbolic, almost.
Mm-hmm. And then you have someone like Veronica Vaudin, whose strategy is completely different. Much more pragmatic, maybe.
How so?
Well, she gets involved with Captain Zepernick, a German officer. It offers her, as the book says, athletic and addictive attentions, but also a way out, widened horizons.
So she sees it as an opportunity.
Clearly. She even says she could never join her fellow islanders ever again. It's a definite break from her old life.
But there's a moral complexity there too, right? With the Russian boy.
Yes, Peter. She hides him, feeds him. It shows this flicker of compassion, a different moral code perhaps, but then, under duress,
She gives him up.
she betrays him, tells the captain where he is. It's this really complex picture of self-preservation, a calculated move for survival that leads to this terrible moral compromise.
It really forces you to ask, what happens to loyalty when it's purely about survival?
Exactly. And speaking of calculated moves, Major Lentsch comes up with his own audacious plan.
This is to stop Hitler visiting.
Right. He decides to fake his defection to England. He plans to send a letter saying his conscience demands that I betray my country.
Wow. What's his thinking there?
It's fascinating. It's almost like cultural warfare. He believes Germany's real fear isn't military might, but the mixing of cultures. He contrasts it with American jazz, addictive, exciting, experimental.
So he's playing on their cultural anxieties.
Precisely. Trying to save Guernsey not with guns, but with this elaborate philosophical bluff. It's pure Lynch.
It's an act of defiance, yeah, but also manipulation. Very him. And this all leads to that escape attempt, doesn't it? Lynch and Ned in the canoe.
Mm-hmm. It's so symbolic. They both need to escape, but for different reasons, their fates kind of converging.
For Lynch, it's about trying to make the island beautiful again, this personal artistic quest.
Yeah, this weird protective instinct he has. While for Ned, it's more straightforward evasion, isn't it? Getting away from the mess, the murder, the collapsing situation, trying to circumnavigate the island, true explorers of the night.
That shared journey under such pressure, it really highlights the strange bonds that can form.
Definitely. But as we move towards the end, things start to unravel quickly.
The consequences catch up.
Right. Lynch is about to be arrested by Ernst and Bode. His plan hasn't quite worked as intended, or at least the net is closing.
Hey, Ned.
Ned realizes the island is seizing up. It's becoming impossible. He finally decides, okay, time to make a run for it to England. You get this real sense of everything just falling apart.
It sounds incredibly tense. But amidst all that chaos, there's that little moment of almost normalcy.
Yeah, with Ned's mother, it's quite poignant.
She serves him what? Stewed apple?
And real custard. From the black market, of course.
Of course. But it's this small comfort, isn't it? A tiny luxury that feels like a symbol of holding onto some scrap of humanity in a broken world. A little act of defiance through enjoyment.
It really is. But those small moments can't erase the bigger picture, the enduring impact. The novel really makes you think about the deep psychological scars, the moral toll.
And the physical cost, too. That description of the forced laborers who built the fortifications.
Oh, yeah, the ones who built the towers and gun emplacements and miles of tunnel, realizing they were weakened by dysentery, eating one bowl of cabbage soup a day, sleeping on planks of wood.
It just hits home, doesn't it? The brutal human cost behind the scenes of war. It wasn't state labor, it was just misery.
Pure misery and dehumanization. And the story leaves you with these big questions about identity, about loyalty, in a world where people become just a number to call, a mouth to feed, a back to beat.
There's that line near the end, the wretched traffic and misery was all their fault, talking about the occupiers. You really feel that sense of responsibility, the damage done.
Yeah, the stripping away of dignity and how long that shadow lasts, even after the war ends. It makes you confront how conflict erodes the self generationally sometimes.
So our deep dive into island madness, it really shows that under occupation, those clear lines between right and wrong just dissolve.
Yeah.
People make choices that are hard to judge.
Impossible choices, often. From big betrayals to small, everyday compromises. You see the impact on individuals, on the whole community.
What really stands out, I think, is how these characters navigated things. When all the normal structures are gone and it's just about survival, what's left of loyalty?
It's a profound question. And what does being truly well-informed mean when you're looking at humanity pushed to its absolute limits, showing all its complex, contradictory sides?
Something to think about, definitely. What happens when the ordinary rules just completely disappear?